Shadows of the Oborozuki, the Covenant of Stealth. Chapter 29, Poison.
It is the weak who are cruel. Only the strong can truly be gentle. Obi-Ichi.
In the bamboo groves of Ibaraki, hidden away in the shadows, lay a tea house that held secrets known only to a select few. This tea house was not an ordinary establishment. It served as a training ground for the Kunoichi Miko, a legendary group of bee maidens, Geisha entrusted with protecting the region from dark forces. Within the walls of this tea house, orphaned girls found solace and purpose. There were 14 of them, each with their own unique abilities and troubled pasts. They were chosen by King Hiro, the wise leader of the Oborozuki clan, to be molded into skilled Kunoichi Miko. Meanwhile, within the walls of the Katsushoji Temple, chaos reigned. The Osaka town raids and the destruction on Mount Hiei had left the citizens in a state of panic. Furanaku and King Hiro returned to Katsushoji to evaluate the clan's duties and devise a plan to decimate the No-Zemi clan. Upon their arrival, they discovered that RYUJI, one of their trusted chunin, had abused his powers. He had used prisoners for test cutting. This behavior was deemed unacceptable, and as a consequence, RYUJI was stripped of his rank. It fell upon Furanaku to select another chunin, someone who would uphold the values and honor of the Oborozuki clan. Kansuke, a dedicated and disciplined shinobi bushi, was deemed worthy of this responsibility. Why? RYUJI thought to himself, fury burning in his heart. He could not sleep. How can this be? I have proved myself again and again, and yet Kuno would favor Kansuke instead of me. As he lay awake, empty, negative thoughts filled his being, and yet plotting revenge seemed useless now as every effort he made proved futile. He had nothing left.
Say Ryu,
whispered a ghostly inhuman voice.
Say Ryu.
Who the hell is that? RYUJI demanded to know. Who's who? Tatsumi asked, half asleep. Who's what? Mikato said, lifting his head from his pillow. Mondo, Narataki, and Kongo grumbled, half asleep, and Yukishi's eyes opened as she tried to block out the talking while she was dozing off to sleep. Would you shut up? Kansuke said in annoyance as he tucked his head under the thick blankets in an attempt to muffle the chattering. Who are you talking to? Furanaku mumbled, disturbed from his night visions. He wasn't in the mood for anything troublesome. He just wanted to go to that place where he could be with his one true love, Ayanagi.
Tell them nothing, and I shall give you great power unimaginable. This shall be our secret.
It's nothing. I was just dreaming, nothing more. You have to be kidding me? You disturbed my visions for this? Furanaku replied. I am going back to sleep now, and I suggest everyone else do also before you deal with my foul mood in the morning. As the others dozed off to sleep soon after, the voice continued speaking in RYUJI's mind. Was Seiryō awakening, or was this telepathic? At this point, RYUJI did not know. Seeing that the other disciples were sound asleep, he stood up to peer out of the shoji. Carefully and silently opening the shoji, he gazed up towards an almost full moon, and there in the distance, a silhouette of a humanoid figure with dog-like ears and a snout could be seen, the moon glowing brightly behind the ghostly silhouette that stood high atop a tree in the distance outside Katsushoji, waving a pine wreath. RYUJI thought maybe it was a crazy extremist priest, but as he looked harder with his shinobi vision, he expanded his pupils and brought the image closer. The face of a dog it was. What the? That's no mask. RYUJI drew back his vision to take a moment to gather himself. Am I dreaming? Crazy shit, I must be losing it. RYUJI thought to himself, Shaking his head, he carefully and quietly shut the shoji and went back to bed, thinking he was in some kind of dream and would awaken to realize it was all a figment of his imagination. As the week progressed at Katsushoji, every night RYUJI had a reoccurring dream of the Jesuit assassination mission with Mikato, only that it was a helpless aged man he had killed with his karma instead, yet Mikato was not present in the dream. Every night after awaking from the dream, the dog spirit called out to RYUJI by projecting its voice into his mind telepathically up until the fourth night.
RYUJI, I cannot see beyond the barrier surrounding the place whereby you preside, and so you shall have to go to Lake Biwa tomorrow night. But in order to leave the temple without being seen, you shall have to retrieve the pine wreath I have left for you outside the temple gate so that I shall be able to see within. In order for you to leave the temple at night undetected, you shall have to follow my instructions perfectly so as not to alert the others within your abode.
Why the hell should I follow a dog, man? You better have a good reason for bothering me every night, or I'll hunt you down and slay you like the wild dog you are. I'll use your hide for a coat.
There is another destiny marked for you, young master, a destiny where you shall have the opportunity to rule supreme and take the place of the late Red Dragon, RYUJI,
stated the grumbly voice of the dog spirit.
But first you shall have to do something terrible to prove yourself, and great wealth and power shall be yours.
I'll hold you to that promise, dog man, be sure of it and remember. I warned you. RYUJI gave a threatening stare, his dark blue eyes wide open, his index finger pointing towards no Giza.
You shall not be disappointed, RYUJI-san.
You should hope I won't. RYUJI pointed to his sword Kai, and getting the message, no Giza withdrew his presence to follow up with the plans for their meeting at Lake Biwa the following night. The night gave off a cool and quiet atmosphere, with only the sound of soft breeze bristling the leaves of the forest of Lake Biwa, accompanied with the occasional croaking of frogs, and a full moon gave off a yellow glow. So what now? RYUJI said to himself as he arrived at Lake Biwa, waiting impatiently in the darkness of the night. Overlooking the lake that reflected the yellow hue of the moon upon its rippling surface, RYUJI became captivated by it and for a moment zoned out.
Greetings, you are him.
A feminine voice spoke in the darkness of the night. Turning around quickly to the direction of the female voice, RYUJI quickly placed his hand on the hilt of Kai and half drew her, only to behold a beautiful woman in a red kimono with black, purple and white decor. Her hair styled and extravagant, and moderate makeup fancified her already gorgeous face and sparkly brown eyes that spoke of strength and weakness, and there was something more about her that caused him to loosen his grasp, or perhaps it was the fact he was instantly taken by surprise because of her stunning beauty.
I am called Karaya of the Nozimi,
said the firm yet sultry voice of the darkly and beautiful maiden of the forest. Karaya pointed to her side as a ghostly figure of a dog humanoid manifested slowly in the spot where Karaya's finger pointed.
This is no Giza.
Dog man. RYUJI replied. What are you?
I am an Inugami, a product of cruelty brought into being by Jinkuro through the ritual of a living dog into a paper golem, and Jinkuro has special plans for you to become supreme ruler of the House of the Five Dragons, but you shall have to perform something truly terrible to prove your loyalty, and to replace RYUJI.
I want to be true to my demon half. Seiryu is what I want to be, not RYUJI.
To do what you ask, you must battle the current blue dragon for dominion in order to rule in his place. If you have what it takes.
Karaya replied. Then that I'll do. Be sure I'll slay all of them in no time and you'll see Seiryu manifest. You may not want to be around when he does. RYUJI stated, and Karaya smirked in satisfaction.
I have a weakness for dangerous men.
To seal the agreement, RYUJI is given the hidden invisible mark of Nozimi by Karaya, painted on his right eyelid with invisible squid ink from a magic cal black and red brush adorned with a silver-plated image of Hanya, and its bristles said to be strands of the hair of Hermusa himself. Such magical potency would allow RYUJI to come and go at will without being detected by Kuno Garuda or the monks. Over the passing few nights, his relationship with Karaya blossomed into what seemed to be the closest to the idea of love that RYUJI had ever come close to. It was now the third night since RYUJI's meeting with Nozomi, and knowing that Kuno was now up north to tend to his duties in Ibaraki, RYUJI was now in a strategic advantage to follow through with the Nozomi plan. On a quite misty morning, RYUJI awoke an hour before sunrise. Instead of going to sleep naturally, RYUJI began the first part of his plot by keeping all the disciples sleeping with a poisonous purple gas he was given by Karaya, whereby he released early one morning before sunrise after scanning the temple for the right opportunity clear from the sight of the monks. RYUJI proceeded to the monks' chambers, and slowly opening the shoji he walked in ever so slowly, his sword kai raised above his head, his demon mask on his face. Sensing danger, Tokuma awoke to behold the black face of Hanya and shouted to the other monks to get up immediately. While still not able to get up quick enough in his panic, RYUJI knocked Tokuma over the head with the solar sheath of kai, yet Tokuma persisted and thrusted his palm into the chest of RYUJI, leaving behind a red handprint that burned his flesh. Gasping for air, RYUJI stumbled backward by the force of the blow. Taking the advantage, Tokuma lunged for RYUJI only to be pierced by the razor-pointed tip of kai. Tokuma fell to the floor, his hand to his stomach, his life breath slowly fading. Wounded and without hesitation, RYUJI proceeded to murder all the monks in their panic upon their sudden wake. Disturbed from their needed rest, they were cut down one by one without mercy. Blood splattered all over the tatami floor, and even the white shoji screens were now blotted with red droplets of blood. With his hand over his raw-seared chest marked with the handprint of the fallen Tokuma, RYUJI departed immediately from the temple of Katsushoji to slay Seiryo the Blue Dragon and absorb his army. As 2 hours passed, the disciples awoke, still sleepy, their heads throbbing. No bell rang that quite misty morning, no monks woke them. Something was terribly wrong. Looking around them, they noticed RYUJI's bed to be empty, and gathering themselves as quickly as possible, they made haste to the monks' sleeping quarters. Only Tarquan was clinging to his life, and upon questioning Tarquan, he revealed that RYUJI was the one who did it, and soon the bodies of the other monks faded away. Only their robes and items remained, and it was as if they never were. Having completed his bloody task to prove his loyalty, RYUJI has already set out on his next mission, to exterminate the notorious Blue Dragon. This mythical creature is said to reside on a secret island just off the shores of Shikoku, hidden from the prying eyes of the world. Unbeknownst to RYUJI, the Grandmaster of the covert organization known as the Nozomi has blessed him with a unique form of magic. With this powerful gift, RYUJI will not have to physically travel to the secret island, but will be transported there by the mystical entity known as Jinkuro. The Grandmaster is eager to witness how the events would unfold, for the successful extermination of the Blue Dragon will have far-reaching implications. RYUJI landed on the island of Shikoku under the watchful gaze of Jinkuro. The island itself seemed to hum with an otherworldly energy, as if aware of the presence of an intruder. With each step, RYUJI drew closer to the final battle that would define his destiny. On the peak of the island's highest mountain, amid swirling mists and ancient ruins, Seiryo the Blue Dragon awaited his challenger. The wind whispered secrets, and the ground trembled in anticipation. RYUJI's heart pounded with a mix of excitement and trepidation as he faced the formidable creature. The battle that followed was a symphony of power and skill. RYUJI's sword clashed with the Blue Dragon's razor-sharp claws, each strike resonating with the weight of destiny. Finally, with a final, thunderous blow, RYUJI struck down the Blue Dragon, extinguishing his formidable existence. The island shook in response, as if acknowledging the triumph of the newest dragon, Seiryo. The armies of the previous dragons, those he has effortlessly vanquished, are now pacified, acknowledging his supremacy. The question that looms in everyone's mind is, who is this new Seiryo, the one chosen to replace the mighty RYUJI? Rumors are spreading like wildfire among the members of the cult, igniting curiosity and dread in equal measure. The No-Zemi has always thrived on secrecy, each dragon representing a unique aspect of their power, yet now there is someone who possesses the strength of both Ryujo and Seiryo, the power of two dragons combined into one being. As word of the newly risen Seiryo spreads, curious eyes turn towards the secret island. Questions arise like waves crashing against the shore. How has this new dragon appeared out of nowhere? What does it mean for their carefully balanced structure? And most importantly, what does it signify for the future? King Hiro returned from the north via portal by word of Furinaku's urgency carried on the wings of the Sparrowhawk. He was shocked to see the place upheaved. When the day had passed, King Hiro prepared his disciples for the funeral at sunset. That day the disciples spent their time cleaning up the temple and arranging the robes of the priests since there were no bodies to cremate or ashes to collect. As the funeral came to a closing, the spirits of the monks manifested as golden white light beings to Tarkwan, the master, and his disciples, and after giving their blessings they bowed in thanks and departed for the beyond world as it opened up its light to receive them as brothers. After a strange mantra uttered by Tarkwan, an ominous aura surrounded Katsushoji and caused it to disappear, leaving behind only the outer wall as if it never was. In this way Katsushoji was abandoned and the disciples were commanded to apprehend RYUJI immediately or kill if he resisted, and so the search for RYUJI began in this way. Kuno used his hand sutra to affect RYUJI from afar that caused his nose to bleed, as if Kuno himself had attached a part of his mind to him, yet still the search proved unsuccessful since no one knew where he had left or where he had gone, nor his plan to eliminate the remaining dragon. The disciples needed leads and fast. After a week of camping within the forests throughout the district, there was still no sign of RYUJI. It was unavoidable now, and so it was decided by Kuno that the Ibaraki tea house must now be used as a safe house for the disciples. Lady Chidori and Lady Mizuki would now have reason to join the covenant, thus, the process could be hastened. This would be their last night, and if they did not have leads on RYUJI by dusk, they were to depart for Ibaraki and continue the search later. "I am a priest from the temple of Hanya," cried Seiryo as he held pine wreaths in which he lit with his flint and stone, allowing the sweet scent of pine to fill the lantern-lit pathway as he moved down the streets of Osaka that followed a narrow lake in and out of the town, and there were always travelers along that path. "Who? What's that?" A random town Keisatsu police officer came to investigate the strange town crier. "Hanya, you say? We don't want the likes of you around here." "What are you doing here?" "Incense from the temple of Hanya." As the officer put out his hand to touch the strange smoking pine wreath, Seiryo bowed and lunged Kai into the officer's chest, and the officer fell dead to the ground. Seiryo wiped his blade clean with the pine leaves and threw them down on the body and continued walking, blood trickling from his nose down to his neck from behind his wooden mask. Everywhere he went he left a careless trail of blood for the Covenant to trace. Word had eventually reached Lord Asano Kusunoki about the murders in the district. The Covenant had been sent to eliminate the threat immediately. Did Seiryo want to be found? Or had the flaming will of his madness finally burnt to ashes what little care he had left? The trail led the disciples to a forest, and blood droplets led them to investigate further ways down the rural trek that led them to what appeared to be an abandoned humble wooden temple of Hanya with a straw roof left behind by No-Zemi who once occupied the area. The disciples encircled the small temple, leaving no room for his escape, Ninken dogs by their side. There was no hope of mercy. They called out to RYUJI, commanding him to give himself up, yet he laughed. Speaking no words, he remained inside, knowing what would happen if he did not heed the Covenant's commands. Having no choice than to resort to the second option given to them by their master, the Covenant readied their bows with fire arrows and released them at the temple's straw roof and wooden walls that quickly caught up in a fiery blaze. After minutes of waiting in a circle around the temple, a strong heat filled the area that could be felt on the faces of the disciples who stood patiently, waiting. The straw roof finally collapsed in and RYUJI was presumed dead. Karaya watched from the bushes behind the blazing, crumpling temple. With tears trickling down her porcelain face, she swore she would get revenge and follow the disciples. It is almost too easy. Like he wanted to die, Furanaku suggested. At least he had the decency to end his life through death by covenant, said Furanaku. He was suffering too much. Why did he do this? Mikato started sobbing. Now, Mikato, you are Samurai Shinobi. Yukishi reminded him as she placed her hand on Mikato's shoulder to comfort him. The flames ended and the remains were ready to be searched. RYUJI's golden mask was found, half melted, and a charcoal smoking body, a roasting skeleton, yet his sword kai was nowhere to be found. Had he left it somewhere else? Master Kuno would not be fully pleased. Gathered in a circular clearing somewhere within the forests of Osaka, the disciples reported back to their master, humbling themselves before his presence. You have the sword? Kuno asked, and Furanaku looked worriedly towards Kansuke, hoping he would be the first to answer. We searched everywhere and it was nowhere to be seen. Kansuke answered. This is disappointing news. I require that you bring me the sword of RYUJI. Kuno shouted, throwing RYUJI's half-melted golden mask towards the disciples like it was useless. All of us witnessed the temple go down with him inside. Please excuse me, Mikato added as he sobbed once again, creating a more uncomfortable environment than it already was. I do not understand. There was nowhere for him to escape because we had him directly in the center. There was no underground passage, nothing. Furanaku said. Did you see his body burn? Then we may never know. Unless this behavior is repeated, it shall be easy to tie it to RYUJI if it were so. And with this knowledge we shall see. However, you must keep it to the back of your mind a possibility of his survival, and that perhaps you may have underestimated RYUJI, for previously being a Fuma agent he is cunning, more so than any of you, and that is why I needed him. However, there are some things that cannot always be foreseen. RYUJI was one such person, and now he is loose with information that has the ability to jeopardize our plans.